I'm underneath the car, and this is TelliCast. And we're with Dan Bartels, who has been working diligently over the past several months on building out the REST API layer for Community Server 2008. So wanted to get you in here because this is a big deal for a lot of guys who customize Community Server. It's another way to build in your customizations without modifying core. So it's really, really easy. Tell us a little about the REST API layer.
Well, the first thing we did is we've been trying for a few years to build an API that was stable, that we could allow partners and application developers to really leverage the functionality we have built in Community Server. And we've had a difficult time locking down our API because our application is built in C#. We also wanted to make sure that we could expose the data in Community Server for people who weren't using ASP.NET as their primary application development language. And so what we settled on was the REST API. REST uses HTTP web services basically, and we created a bunch of XML documents that represent the objects in the Community Server API, and REST endpoints that use HTTP posts, gets, heads, puts, and deletes to update and insert data, read data, delete data from the Community Server installation. So using that technology, you can use REST via utilities like curl, which is a command line utility that Unix people would use. You can use it with PHP, you can use it with ASP.NET, you can use it in AJAX. And in addition to that, we've also then gone ahead and created a C# API implementation, which covers all of the REST communication details and would allow a user using ASP.NET development technologies to access the Community Server data in a nice, friendly, consistent manner.
Right. So you can reference that DLL, basically, our assembly in your project, and interface with those things directly, which turn around and make the REST call?
Yes, make the REST calls out to the Community Server installation.
Fantastic.
That you pointed to. It simplifies the ability to add in Community Server references. Right now, I think there are 5 or 6 assemblies you need to add, a bunch of configuration files if you want to call the Community Server API directly. This way, it's all obfuscated behind the web service layer.
Which, and that access layer is still going to be there in Community Server 2008. If you're used to wrapping the Community Server controls and putting some functionality in there,
yeah.
Right above accessing and modifying core, you wrap the Community Server controls and components.
Sure. Well, it's still written in C#, right. And we're still distributing some of the source code for Community Server, and you'll still have the ability to access and extend that. And I'm not exactly sure which parts of the Community Server Web Services API will release source code for, but I'm sure we'll at least release some of it. So that our partners will be able to extend the Web Services API in their own products that they ship, as well as so that our users who use the API interface will be able to customize it for their own use.
And we talked about some of the examples of things people can do through the REST API. So we're talking about basically the idea is we're extending functionality of Community Server. But one of the things I can do, one of the examples I think that you gave at the CSDC was the ability to let's do a data load. And so we're going to do a one-time data load through REST. So walk us through some of the examples of things that you see people doing with the REST APIs.
Certainly. Well, this is part of what's so exciting about REST is we're building REST, which is essentially one half of a solution on Community Server, and then we're reaching out to our partner community to help us create, invent, design ways to extend Community Server into new verticals and new platforms and new technologies and new use cases. Some of the things that REST makes very simple, integrating front-end and back-end systems, previous back-end systems, pushing data in and out of Community Server gets to be very easy. Things like user generation scripts, user creation scripts, user termination scripts, data loads from previous systems, data mining, so you can pull information out of Community Server for reporting or customization systems.
One of the things you mentioned was getting data in and out of Community Server. So there's an example I think we've talked about before on one of our episodes that one of the first things I did at Telligent with CS 1.1 was we built web services to allow a client who had a www site. They have a CMS product, that might have been Vignette or something, that was running their www site. And so we actually, Community Server has always had web service layer. The CS team has actually talked about how sometimes it hasn't always been maintained as it went forward, but I found it to be real stable and always worked, did everything it wanted to. But it's always been there. And so what we did is we allowed them to, when their CMS published a new piece of content, it would go in and create a thread in a forum, and then they would have this linkage back between the thread they created and the content they made out. And so they would create a link that would allow them to say, discuss this now. So you can imagine a magazine that creates a new article on their www site and has a discuss this now, and it has another option that says, here's how many people have actually made comments on this post, and they would actually go into the discussion site. So something that we did custom web services for will be exposed. You can do that same thing using the REST.
Sure. Sure, and things like paging gateways for companies, that will all be, the sky's the limit there. Phone voice over IP integration, the top 10 posters on your, customer support line on Dell.com showing up on your Cisco IP phone. I mean, wow. Wherever you want to take it. Yeah. And also, I think that you'll see a lot of web part type of integration. So you'll see web versus web integration. So while REST allows you to build WinForm applications, Windows client applications, Unix command console and shell script applications, you're also going to see people leveraging it, just building content parts for a community server, things that run inside community server, because the programming, the testing, and consistency of the API is just going to be a lot better programming experience going forward. And so people will want to use the new web services layer to communicate into community server, even on a community server installation. I think you'll also, I believe we're going to keep all the original web services. They haven't been removed. And while this project is currently called Community Server Web Services, it's really positioned as our API going forward. Fantastic.
So I had something else to ask you, and I completely lost it, but I do want to find out, so because we hear rumors all the time about what it was like working on REST, because you're remote. I work here in Dallas, and so we don't get to talk often, but I understand that to say it was a challenge working on REST and working with, I don't want to name any names, but working with Jose.
Well,
I just got to say, working with Jose has just been phenomenal. It's been just a great opportunity for me. I told him once. I told him a second time, and then I told him a third time, and finally I just said, not only are you great, but REST is going to be great. I don't know how else to tell you that it's going to be phenomenal for developers. They're going to keep building more and more applications off of the CS API. This is just something that is just over and over. I keep saying it's the best thing. I don't even know what else to tell you about it, so I'm going to go get Jose, because he's much better to talk to you about this kind of stuff.
No, I guess we'll see you in about a week.